Hari Om. As we move into chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita, I will take a quick look at chapter 14, one of the verses. Verse number 18 in chapter 14 says, Urdhvam gachanti sattvasthaha madhye tishthanti rajasaha. On the highest level, the highest grade of all the gunas or qualities is sattva guna, and on the middle rung, madhye tishthanti, stands rajasic guna, and jaganya guna vrittisthaha adho gachanti tamasaha, tamasic guna. Indolence and laziness, procrastination, hate and envy, viciousness, all these qualities which we may have 5% or 80%, whatever, but we all have. Now this is at the lowest rung, says Bhagwan in the 14th chapter, which is all about the three gunas which are actually driving us. Now, we are wondering, what are these principles which make us chase out in the world all the time, and we seem to have no control over it? Okay, so the easy answer is, it's the mind. The mind draws us out, or the senses, the indriya. All right, but behind the mind and the indriya, what is the quality? What is that texture, the flavor, that climate, which is actually designing the climate of the mind or the even the senses, which now that is guna. If my quality or the basic nature is sattvic, then the mind will be sattvic, drawn to teaching or learning or charity and helping, will draw away from envy and greed and ambition कि हमको भी ये करना है क्योंकि उन्होंने किया है. If my mind is rajasic, I'll do that. That is the answer. The gunas are actually operating and driving, and therefore there are some simple principles of our life that we may like to quickly go over, and that is principle number 1. The mind goes to where there is a lack. It's a natural tendency. Lack means abhav, kami. Kami jahan mahsoos hoti hai, abhav lagta hai, the mind keeps going to that. It does not go to all the things that we already have, and we have plenty. So the mind, it's just like the tongue. The tongue will go and keep feeling that area where the tooth has been extracted, where there is an empty space. So the mind is like that. अरे हमारे पास ये नहीं है, लेकिन कितना है उसमें हम ध्यान नहीं देते, हमारा मन उसमें नहीं जाता, because we feel secure about it कि हाँ उतना तो है ही है. So that sense of security gives us that complete, temporary sense of completeness about those things which we already have. तो हमारे पास धन है, दौलत है, comfort है, luxuries है. जब एक दिन हमारी कोई luxury कोई ले ले, and the mind will go only on that. So suppose I am used to driving independently in the city, and one fine day my car breaks down, or I have to sell it for some financial reason, and now I have no car. Because I am used to it, my mind will go only to that. Now, so what about Atma? Is there a lack? Is there any koi kami hai Atma ki? That is the whole question. The Atma is always with us. There is no lack, there is no abhav. So our mind doesn't go to it. It doesn't draw our attention. And the second thing is that the body and our senses, they feel suffering of, poverty or pain or disease. But the Atma doesn't feel disease or poverty or pain. Therefore, our mind doesn't even go there. So the second principle of where the mind actually is drawn is where there is struggle and suffering. एक दिन stomach ache हो जाए या headache हो जाए या knee pain हो जाए, we are constantly, first of all, thinking about it, and then if someone calls up, we are talking about it. Can we stop talking about it and take our minds off, because these are passing things? Or even if the pain is chronic, it's not a passing thing. Okay, it will go with the body. It is still temporary in the long run. So the mind again is attracted only to urgent struggles. जहाँ भी struggle होगा, थोड़ा सा भी struggle होगा, something that requires our attention, and it could be kids or education or finances or whatever, someone's behavior, what we do is our mind is drawn to those things only. It's an urgent sort of struggle which the mind wants to fix, कि अब हमको ये fix करना है. तो परमात्मा और आत्मा की बात तो दूर की बात है. My mind is on the immediate struggles. So even if I've taken up a small project in the society, okay, we want to be free of plastic, so we are going to organize our teams and make sure that we create awareness and collection of garbage, etc. कोई भी छोटा सा प्रोजेक्ट अगर हम ले लेना, देखिएगा कि हमारा मन उसी में रह कर उसी में विचरता रहता है. The mind dwells on it. Now, Krishnamurti used to say that use your mind like an efficient machine, no doubt, but use it for functional purpose, for a functional purpose. That, of course, I need my mind to remember the way to my office, the way to the station. If I give up my mind, I will be lost. But don't use it for regurgitating old thoughts or anxieties of the future, because it's no use. Because what's past is gone and the anxieties of the future are not going to change anything. Why are we using the excellent machinery of the mind to do these useless, inconsequential, totally frivolous things, past and future? Use that mind to dwell on the higher. That is the only way we can reach the सात्विक. कि हमारे पास एक ही इंस्ट्रूमेंट है और वो इंस्ट्रूमेंट भी बाद में ड्रॉप करना पड़ता है, बट दैट इज द ओनली लैडर. फर्स्ट स्टेप ऑफ द लैडर तो चलना पड़ेगा ना. सो द माइंड इज आवर ओनली क्रच वी हैव राइट नाउ. और उस क्रच को हम लोग दुनिया में रहने के लिए यूज कर रहे हैं. तो वेयर इज द स्पेस टू use it for Paramatma, for Atma, for dwelling on the higher, for asking the questions, or just for meditation, or just for bhakti. कुछ भी higher सात्विक में करेंगे तो the mind can be well used. Now, if there is something that is hurting or pinching or which is not right and my mind is saying ये तो fix करना ही है, जब तक fix नहीं होगा I will not go and read my text. जो भी हम text पढ़ रहे होते हैं उस time maybe some biography or Ramakrishna's biography or Vivekanand ji or whatever, you say बाद में I will get to it. First I want to fix this. And what we are trying to fix is always in sansar. Without that, life will still go on. As I said once, even if we take 10 days off and go away to an ashram to study some course or just for a meditation camp, wherever, just take off, you will find that behind us the life goes on just as it does. So, Krishnamurti also used to say in the same way that if the mind is to be used only functionally, it means that when I use my car to take me from place to place. Then I put it in the garage and I don't think about my car when I get back home. So, in the same way, when I have used my mind to do all the things which are needed in the world, why are small niggling little fears and anxieties dominating my mind? And that is the danger, is that is taking away our time of dwelling on the higher, the Paramatma, the Atma, which is waiting. But our attention won't go to it because it's always there and it doesn't know disease and it's healthy. So if there is no problem in your home, will your attention go to that non-problem area? No. Therefore, there is no fear or insecurity or fixing needed or disease in the Atma. It's just comfortably there and always with us. So हम attention देते ही नहीं हैं. And then with the result that we are also unaware of it and energy is flowing outward. So there's the story of a thief who was, of course he used to keep up all night because he had to rob homes and banks and ATMs. So he was in the habit of staying up all night. Naturally, that was his job. But once he became really very rich and very wealthy, and then he had his big mansion and he moved into a big house, he didn't need to steal, he didn't need to be a robber, and he did not go out also for robbing. But he was still staying up the nights. Why? Out of force of habit. Because not only habit, there was also fear. Fear of being caught out. Our mind, third principle is our mind will be drawn to where there is fear in our hearts or insecurity कि ये कैसे होता है. So the thief who's got everything and every luxury and all the comforts is still not shant enough to be able to sleep at night. Why? You can ask all those tax evaders and bank fraudsters and insider traders and loan defaulters. There are so many, and they may be dealing in a few thousand rupees or multi-crore scams. But you ask them the quality of their mind and their sleep. It's terrible, because the mind once again will not be able to sleep when there is fear. Will not be, and where there is fear, you cannot dwell on the highest, the Paramatma. So the simple rules are that when there is abhav, the lack of something, our mind is drawn to it. When there is some urgent struggle and we want to fix it, it may be very small, but it's out of, in the sansar only, with people or objects or situations, our mind will be drawn to it. Unless we watch it and say, okay, I'm going to fix this and come back. I'm going to change the punctured tire of my car and come back and not keep dwelling on and on and on about it. Maybe the tire is not fixed, but I'll say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to just call up the mechanic and that will be that. But my mind, till the mechanic comes, is not going to dwell on it. So that's what happens. I'm giving you a very ordinary example. But our mind goes to relationships and people and small little financial issues that need fixing. All we have to do is set aside a time and say, okay, this time I'm going to handle it, make these certain calls to people and seek the help of so and so. This is what I need to do. Over. Chapter over. Now I come back to. But the mind is not made like that. You see, that's why we are drawn out completely. And that is a very Rajasic mind. Now, Atma is completely samriddha. It is complete. It is full. It is rich. And therefore, our mind doesn't go to it. Like this thief who's got all the riches, but now his mind will not go to the riches. His mind will go on fear. That's why they say that even in our smallest social circles, we should avoid the smallest white lie that we may be tempted to speak. Why? Because there's always this niggling subconsciously. There's a niggling pricking the mind, saying that maybe I'll be found out the next time somebody talks to me about it. Maybe I'll be found out. The mind is doing what? It is dwelling on that small little fear. The mind needs to be fearless. I need a fearless mind and a free mind in order to find the highest. That's what meditation is all about. But people who train their minds can do it even when they are fully awake and not meditating. They can keep their mind free of all the noise that is going on. Say, okay, of course I need to fix my car, I need to fix that certain relationship, somebody is hurt, I need to visit them in the hospital, somebody, maybe there's someone who is a drug addict in my distant family, I need to do something, okay, I'll do it, this is the time for it, I'll make these calls. But my mind is completely not entangled in it. That is the freedom we want. But the mind gets habituated to entangling itself in loops over. Our mind goes in loops. The same thought you'll find is coming back in cycles after every few minutes. It's a mindless activity. There's a pun on mindless now. Mindless, yeah, because it has no meaning. Why think in loops? Fix it, close it, come back home. Where is home? Home is where Paramatma is, where the Atma is, where I want to dwell. I want to read or meditate or bhakti or just contemplate on some higher thought. So the outward flowing energy is also there because of one more principle. There's a fourth principle, that is, of course, Vedantic thought is based completely on the premise that there is a rebirth and there is reincarnation. And you have several births when you have to, somewhere you have to answer for everything. That is a basic premise of Vedantic thought. But Abrahamic religions, they all believe that there is but one life. And because all the Abrahamic religions believe that there is just one life, what happens is they believe that then this life has to become the center of all the bhog, all the enjoyment, और इस एक single life में हमको इसका पूरा रस निचोड़ लेना है. I have to eke out every ounce of joy and happiness from this life. From where? Life from the outer world. यानी कि even eking out happiness is dealing with outer world. That's one of the issues. I'm mentioning it because we are not all influenced by the Vedantic thought. We are influenced mostly by Western thought, which is based on Abrahamic religions. One life, let's enjoy. आपने ये नहीं किया, अरे आपने वो नहीं किया, you've missed something. So westernization has led to a certain kind of percolation of that subconsciously into our own lifestyles. Eke out every ounce of joy. ठीक है, joy, but this is joy of sansar, na? Sansar is not a permanent thing. That Vedantic thought has not percolated deep enough into our psyche, but the Western thought has, which is a result of historically because of our upbringing and education and colonization, and so the historical reason is already there, but we should be aware of it. So this frenzied activity of the mind goes on, but we are unaware of it, which means that Atma remains invisible. Because on the surface of the mind there is such a big cloud of ये नहीं हुआ, अभाव, fear, ये क्यों नहीं हुआ, anxieties, and I have to eke out this joy or that joy, and struggles, ये struggle. These are all, this is all like the fire inside which is covered up by smoke. But the fire remains there, otherwise there won't be smoke. हम आत्मा हैं, इसीलिए हम बात कर पा रहे हैं, सोच रहे हैं, सोच कर पा रहे हैं, और स्ट्रगल भी जो हो रही है, that is also because आत्मा is present. The fire is present, otherwise smoke won't be there. But the same smoke is covering it. When there's very thick smoke during a yagya, you will see, you can't see the fire for some time. There's only smoke all around. Therefore, in the 38th verse of the 3rd chapter, Bhagwan had said that because of all this crowding of our minds, dhume navriyate vanhihi yatha darsho malena cha. This smoke of our thoughts, it covers the real thing, the real driver of our life, Atma. And the flame is always burning. It never can be extinguished. And a never extinguished flame we are ignoring, क्योंकि वो तो है ही है, या दिखता नहीं है. In both cases we are ignoring it, and therefore you know why we are fire worshippers, because there's also a reason. We and the Zoroastrians, the Parsis, you will notice that if you take a lamp or a candle or any source of light, flame, and turn it upside down, the flame always turns its face upward. No matter which direction you turn it in, down, it will not go down. Fire doesn't have the quality or the nature of ever facing down. It always faces up, Paramatma ki or. Maybe this is one of the reasons we are fire worshippers, because this is the quality of the fire that we must imitate. No matter what kind of condition we are in, our lives may have turned topsy-turvy. वो तो होता नहीं है, छोटी-छोटी चीज़ों से ही mind topsy-turvy हो जाता है. But the flame inside should always face up, upwards. Yes, I have to find the higher. That's what a flame does. I have to find the high. I am facing Paramatma, no matter where you turn me. कौन कहता है? ये दिया, the flame. Urdhva Gaman is the nature of the flame, and that is a very inspiring quality of the fire, any form of fire. Fifth principle is हम outward growing हैं इसलिए कि हमारी वासना हमको वहाँ draw करती रहती है. And our vasana means what? The past impressions of whatever nature and characteristics we have collected and accumulated, they are forming the subconscious, let's call it the subconscious stream under our minds. That stream sometimes makes us do things and we are not aware of it. That inclination is vasana. So that's why you saw that the two fakirs, one of them could hear the sound of the azan being called by the muazzin in the masjid, right above the sound of all the attractions and noise and buying and selling of the fare. Why? Because his inclination is towards that sound. मंदिर की घंटी सुना देती है क्योंकि हमारा मन वहाँ है. अगर हम कभी मॉल में जाते हैं, you will notice that there are some people who are lingering more in around बाहर से भी, around a jewelry shop or clothing, and there are a handful of them who will be lingering around a bookshop. And in the bookshop itself, you will find there are some who are lingering in the section of fiction, or in self-help books, or in the philosophy section. और भी कम मिलेंगे वहाँ पे. तो पूरे मॉल में अगर 10,000 हैं तो 2 लोग philosophy section of that bookshop में मिल जाएंगे. Why? Vasana is drawing them there. 10,000 लोग हैं ना, लेकिन they were not drawn there. वासना नहीं थी. वासना, that inner inclination. So that's how we are driven. The gunas are also operating on top of that, and gunas, you see, the whole cycle is what is binding us. I have a sattvic guna or a rajasic or a tamasic, and that will make us do my karma. My karma may be tamasic or rajasic or sattvic. That karma will bring me my vasanas in the next life. So it becomes such a cycle that only a knowledgeable person will say, hey, look, I have to break out of this. And so first of all, we should know why we are drawn outward. Then we can break out of it. The fifth principle is that we can break out of it if we realize the hollowness of the pleasures we are seeking outside. Why? The moment the outer craze, it's not as if we are not dealing with the outer or enjoying the outer, taking part in the outer world. Of course not, we are all part of it. But the craze, जो craze होता है ना, ये चाहिए और ये ही चाहिए. एक साड़ी देख ली किसी के ऊपर, वही रंग और वही उस तरह की साड़ी हम ढूंढने निकल जाएंगे. I mean, I'm sure you met such people, and sometimes you wonder कि इतना passion, इतना energy, इतना thrill उनके life में objects के लिए कैसे आता है. भगवान के लिए आ जाता तो भगवान मिल जाते. So the moment we stop being fascinated and enthralled and crazed about the outer objects, there will be a time when the mind will say, okay, I'm not enthralled by the outside. And then the question will arise that, is this my whole journey? What is the purpose of human existence? What is my journey on this earth? Let me find out. That journey and the question begins only when that craze and that passion and that journey outward has to slow down first and then peter out, slow down and disappear. वो अगर नहीं होगा तो inward journey कैसे होगी? तो पहले तो हमको पूरे बाहर हम जितना जा सकते हैं चले गए हैं ऑलरेडी, यानी कि हर चीज का हमने भोग कर लिया है, right? So I'm talking about ourselves. I cannot speak for everyone because yes, there are some people who are very very poor and they have to have their basic necessities. But हमारे लिए कोई भी कमी नहीं है. Beyond basic necessities, there are comforts and luxuries and everything. सब चीज का भोग जब बाहर की दुनिया ने हमको दे दिया है तो एक ही रास्ता बचता है अब अंदर की जर्नी. That's why Shakespeare had said in Twelfth Night when the Duke of Ilrich, I think, he was in love with Olivia and she was a very rich lady and he knew that there was no hope for this love. So he found out that this is a one-sided love. It's a comedy, Shakespeare's comedy, Twelfth Night. And therefore he said, okay, this is a one-sided love, I have to get out of it now. He was crazy about Olivia. So here he says these famous words. He says, if music be the food of love, play on. Which means that if the music which is playing is making my love grow and grow, play on. But he wants to get out of love and he's saying play on. If the music is the food of love, go on playing. Why does he say that? Because he explains, and this is high philosophy. He says, because when you give me excess of it, that surfeiting yani I'll be surfeited, oversaturated with it, and then my appetite may sicken. The appetite for whatever I'm seeking, in this case it is love of a lady, my appetite will become sick. It will sicken and then so die. Okay, so the actual words are, if music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it, that surfeiting, the appetite may sicken and so die. This is one of the methods. Some people also recommend this कि आपको जो चीज़ चाहिए वो इतना एक्सेस में इंडल्ज कर लो that the appetite itself will become sick. I'm not even recommending this. I'm only saying that we are already saturated. How come we haven't got sick of it? Of the world of clothes and jewelry or makan or travel or gadi or family and high education, name, fame, social interaction, parties, सम्मान, पूछो जितना हमने करना था कर लिया. And still our appetite has not sickened. कोई बुला ले, then again I am ready. So the only thing our appetite has not sickened with is reading more, finding out more about Paramatma, getting into the scriptures, listening more, grabbing a book, going to the उसकी वासना भी develop नहीं हुई है. Let's put it that way. So इसीलिए this philosophy of Shakespeare I'm not recommending. I'm saying कि हमारा already saturate surfeit हो गया है. फिर भी हम inward journey start कब करेंगे? पूरे बाहर चले जाते हैं तब उसका जो रस होता है ना, हर चीज का रस, वो उससे ऊब जाते हैं. We become completely saturated with the rus or the joy of something we have overindulged in. And Gurdjieff was one of the philosophers who said that he craved for a certain fruit for a long time, and his uncle once came up to him and he brought a crate of that fruit to him. Gurdjieff puts it in his book, this particular incident. And the uncle brought the crate to him and he took a wand and he said, all right, Gurdjieff, he's a German philosopher, you are going to finish this crate right now, not over a week, but right now. So Gurdjieff was very happy. Wow. So suppose it was mangoes, because in our case we are crazy about mangoes. So he ate one and he ate the second and third and the 10th one, and after when he stopped, every time he stopped, the uncle would snap his wand and say, all right, you have to finish it, I am here, otherwise I'm going to whack you. Now the appetite was so sickened, the senses were so sickened. By what? By the same fruit which this young man was craving for a very long time. This is what happens to all of us. Whether it is love lasts for a year or two and then it wilts and it turns into, I don't know what it turns into, a very mundane kind of interaction or even viciousness, but it transforms. Just like his appetite for that wonderful fruit turned into sickness. So he was so nauseated at the end. Gurdjieff writes in his book, he says, I have lived for 75 years now, he says, but never have I desired that fruit ever again. So he is so sickened and satiated. Therefore, लेकिन और फिर भीतर जाने की यात्रा कब शुरू होगी? Only when we have a surfeit and we have tasted everything that we are crazy about. So right now, even if you write down the number of desires you have, even if they number 3, I'm being conservative in my thinking, they could number 10, there could be 10 desires. If there are 10 desires, then there has to be something wrong. If there are 3, then we can start scratching it out, scoring it out, saying, is this really needed? क्योंकि संसार को भोग लो और संसार जितना निरर्थक है उतना ही निरर्थक हमारा जीवन होता जाता है. Because we have seen the indulgence of all the nirarthak, meaningless things. So the jivan also is nirarthak because we are drawing all our so-called small little joys and satisfaction from the nirarthak, meaningless objects. Therefore, Shakespeare is worth noting that if music be the food of love, play on, because give me excess of it and that surfeiting, the appetite may sicken. My appetite will sicken and so die. Who will die? Not me. My appetite for that thing for which I'm crazy or craving will die. So Shakespeare says, let that appetite be satiated and surfeited till you have no appetite for it. We are already satiated, as I said. तो संसार का अब हमको त्याग करना है क्या? संसार त्याग करने के लिए कुछ है ही नहीं. There is nothing that we need to give up. Because even when we give up in sansar, na, give up meaning mentally, of course, not being attached. We say, अच्छा मैंने ना इसका त्याग कर दिया, मैंने 10 million डोनेट कर दिया, या मेरे पास 4 गाड़ी थी और मैंने अपने फ्रेंड को, वेरी पुअर फ्रेंड हु गॉट 2 of them. We like to talk about our त्याग. Why? Because that त्याग is adding to our prestige and our pride. But the price is very high. The price of that त्याग is gaining pride and arrogance, which is the higher price to pay. It's like a reverse effect. Better not to have त्याग in that sense. What is real त्याग? When there is garbage in the house and I give it away in the morning to the safai karmi, to the housekeeping staff, do I then go and show off to my friends? Today, मैंने garbage का त्याग किया. Wow. We can't say that. Why? Because what we gave up is worthless, meaningless, nirarthak. So if I give up, let's say, my craving for travel or diamonds or diamond jewelry or maybe fancy shoes or whatever it is, I'm not sure, maybe. So if I give that up, instead of, what is there to be proud about? I have given up what is nirarthak. It's like garbage था इसीलिए हमने दे दिया ना सुबह सफाई कर्मी को. So if I give up my old jewelry to poor relatives or even to poor servants and say, okay, I've had enough. How much can a person wear? I'm just giving an example of diamonds, but there are people who crave a lot of other things like success in business or success for their children or bigger homes. So I'm reminded of Steve Jobs' last famous words as he lay a millionaire, multi-millionaire, the founder of Apple. And many of us are using Apple devices right now to communicate. As he lay dying, and he knew that he was dying because it was pancreatic cancer, he said, what have I done with my life? I have craved for name, fame and wealth and prestige, and I have had all of that. And yet I am here lying because there is no one who can take away my sickness. And I am dying like that is my greatest poverty. And he said, what have I done? I have put all my life into gaining the things which right now have no meaning for me. All the wealth at home means in the bank, millions, they are lying there, and I am on this one hospital bed in the corner. This is Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, who died a couple of years ago with pancreatic cancer. So when you hear the words of a dying person, sometimes you get a flash that, oh, I am in the same boat. We are going to be there at some point or the other for different reasons, if not for cancer. So he also said at that time that, look, if you're wearing a $300 watch or a $30 watch, it's going to show you the same time. It's going to show you the time which is the accurate time. What difference does it make? No, even if you have a $1,50,000 car or a $50,000 car, what difference does it make? It will still take you from point A to point B and you travel. If you're living in a 800 square foot home or a 3000 square foot home, what difference does it make? Your feeling of loneliness will be the same inside the house. Famous words. We don't remember that what is outside will one day surfeit. We will be saturated with it. It will be a surfeit, like Shakespeare said. And therefore the appetite will sicken. When will our appetite sicken? Maybe it has sickened. That's why we are all here. So these were 5 principles of why the mind is drawn outward. And that is feeling of lack, feeling of handling some immediate struggle, our own past vasana, our fears, because fear of being caught out. So our mind is drawn to that. And finally, not feeling that we have had enough of something. These 5 principles draw us all outside. And therefore, the guna that develops out of these, the drawing outside, is a rajasic guna. And that's mentioned in verse 18 of chapter 14. That's why the whole guna thing, I thought I'll wrap it up with a few thoughts on it. Now, Bhagavan says, what are these 3 gunas? And why are they drawing you and binding you? So in the 14th chapter, 22nd verse, he had said, Shri Bhagavan uvacha prakasham cha pravrittim cha mohameva cha pandava sattva rajas tamas when these are present with you, na dveshti sampravrittani, na nivrittani kankshati. The one who hates not and he longs not is the one who is going to go beyond guna. Because Arjun says, look, if guna are binding me, because these are my qualities of the climate of my mind, the texture of my mind, which is becoming the vasana and which is making me do karma, which is rajasic or sattvic karma or tamasic. So how can I go beyond guna? गुणातीत कैसे होना है? So Bhagwan had already mentioned to him so many things. He said, जो गुणातीत हो जाता है ना, that person is udasin, unaffected. 14th chapter he had mentioned. Bhagwan had said, look, these are the characteristics. If you can cultivate these, then you can go beyond guna, and the guna will not bind you to the earth. Avatisthati, centered in the self. Bhagwan had already given him so many pointers. Sama dukha sukha swasthaha. Be sama, equanimous in dukha and sukha. All this was mentioned in chapter 14. Samaloštashma kanchana. Sam, loštashma, mud and kanchana. Gold and mud should weigh the same with you. Should have the same value. Outward value is different. You will treat it like gold or dust. But in the mind there will be no great value attached to. Samaloštashma kanchana. Dhirastulya nindastutihi. Your attitude towards people is, you be dhiraha, because people who are doing ninda or stuti or praising you one day will, in their own fickleness, because they may be fickle-minded, they may also insult you this very second day. So is it that I am going to be elated in praise and dejected in blame? But then I am going to be tossed about crazily, no control. Arambha parityagi, stop looking for new ways to engage with the word. Udasin. And therefore, samadukha swasthaha, your attitudes towards situations. Samaloštashma kanchana, mud and gold is just a symbol. It is your attitude towards things, objects, furniture, drapery, whatever our weaknesses, so it could be drapery, it could be carpets. Some weakness everyone has. So, and then we begin a collection, start collecting it like children collect shells of feathers, and we have a big collection of it. So now chapter 15, Bhagwan is saying, I will give you a kind of a connection, a relationship between Jiva and Paramatma. Jiva and Paramatma, what is the relationship? And that has been given with a kind of allegory, a kind of mystic, a poetic way of drawing an allegory or an example, which is a tree, Ashwatha tree. Let's start. Atha panchadashodhyayah Purushottama Yogaha. Why Purushottama? That's the title of the chapter. Purushottam is, of course, the highest Purusha, the one that pervades. Purusha means that which pervades everything. And what is that which pervades everything? By now we know it is only Atma. It is that consciousness which pervades everything. It is not manifest in stones and furniture and inanimate things, and it is expressed and in human beings and other creatures. That's all the difference. But it is present everywhere. Purushaha, which means pervading everywhere. About that Purusha is the 15th chapter. And 14th was about the Jiva, who is fluctuating because of his Sattva, Rajas and Tamas guna. And 13th chapter was about telling us that, look, you as a Jiva is just an assemblage of these two. Jiva, the body, mind, intellect, and Atma. You're just an assembled package of these two. And therefore, the Jiva talked about in 14th chapter, and now Paramatma, Purushottama. So this is the connection between 13, 14 and 15 chapters. Bhagavan says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhva Moola Madashakham Ashwatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Sa Vedavita. The wise people, it is said, speak of one indestructible tree, which is called the people tree, or the Ficus religiosa, it is called in botanical terms. It is the Ashwatham tree, people tree, banyan tree as they call it. And this tree of sansar, it is like an allegory. It is just a comparison. It's not some kind of a crazy comparison or an imagery which is meaningless. It's an imagery meant to bring home a certain point. Sansar ka tree. So there is a sansar tree like Ashwatha, and whose urdhva moolamad. So the roots are in the air. So Ashwatha of course has aerial roots that are also in the ground, and they are aerial roots which grow from top. The main trunk can be compared to Paramatma, and the branches are the sensory world that we have, the body, the mind, the intellect, the world of objects is the branches. Why? We will see why. And the leaves are, of course, it says leaves are Ved. Parnani yastam Vedasa Vedavita. They are like the Ved. We have to break it down and just see what each thing means. Other Shakham, branches. The leaves which are the branches, Shakham is branches which are growing out of that tree of Sansar. These Shakhas are actually multiple. Yes, that's true. The tree keeps sprouting newer and newer branches, and it becomes a multiplicity. So in our life, what has happened is, because of our sattva, rajas and tamas guna, the multiplicity of our actions and our attitudes keeps growing. So we are doing all kinds of things in this world and growing our karmas and multiplying. The multiplicity of objects and karma are growing. So that's what the branches are all about. The more karma we do, and why do we do so much of karma? Why? Because it's mine. मेरा काम है और मुझे अपने लिए मेरे लिए is mamatva, or the results belong to me is aham, ahankar. Mamata and ahankar, mera, mere liye, are the two things which make us do actions. Each action just springs forth more and more branches. It can also mean the branches of rebirth, because then it goes on and on and on. Ashwatham. The word Ashwatham of course means people tree, but one of the meanings of this is also, the second meaning, Ashwatha, that which does not last forever. But you feel that this Ashwath tree goes on and on and on forever, and it springs forth new aerial roots which go into the ground, and then it grows again and it marches on and on and on. It appears as if the sansar appears as if it is going to go on forever, but that is only relative to the human lifespan. Relative to our small little lifespan, we feel, ye sansar to hamesha chalta rahega. But sansar is also got its own lifespan, including the planets and the universe and this entire universe which is going to collapse into a black hole one day. Millions and millions of years, but everything has a lifespan. But because of our short lifespan, we think, sansar will go on forever. Now, the tree of life, Ashwatha, one thing to remember about this tree of life, if you are going to look at life in this chapter as a tree, is that it is forever changing. Newer and newer branches, new leaves being sprouted, and it's changing all the time, altering, and all these changes are temporary. There is nothing which is constant. And yet, we feel that living in this world, I want the sukh that is permanent. I want those objects and people and situations to give me some sukh which is permanent. You know, when we are really very, very happy and joyous, we feel that that moment is absolutely permanent. At that moment, we feel it, that it is permanent. But actually, this tree of life can never satisfy us. The tree of sansar can never lead to tripti, to complete tripti or contentment. But we are expecting the sansar to give us that complete and whole contentment. Our expectation is very strange, because of that expectation we keep sprouting more and more branches, more actions, more karma, and each karma brings with it the baggage of gunas, the qualities sattva, rajas, and then the vasana and more karma. The cycle goes on and on, birth and death. And that is because this tree of sansar, we have a wrong expectation from it. Now, prahuravyayam, this is an interesting word. The tree is also called avyaya. As I said, it seems to go on forever, avyaya, but it is not. Just like the water cycle. If you see the water cycle in the world, in sansar, the ocean, so you see that the water, evaporates, and then it collects in a cloud, and then it condenses again and pours down as rain, as water again. And then when it pours down as water, it flows down back into the ocean through rivulets and rivers down the mountains, and back into the ocean, water back to water. And then it evaporates again and then condenses again. It seems to be that this cycle is continuous. Yes, continuous. But is it forever? Is it eternal? Will it go on for infinity? Of course not. Will sansar go on for infinity? Of course not. Then why do we believe that our sukh has to be infinite? So that's the mistake we make about this sansar. Now, some people may argue and say, sansar to bahut lamba hai, but right now whatever sukh I get, I am not going to live for so many years, so I need that sukh right now. But are we aware that that same sukha transforms into dukha very, very quickly? How? ये ही samsparshja bhoga dukhayonaya evate. In the 5th chapter, Bhagavan had said that pleasures of the outer world come through your sparsha, through your contact with the outer world, and they turn very soon into suffering. Why? Because they're lost or gone or finished or disintegrated, or you've lost interest in it. So the love of my life, whom I felt was I couldn't live without 10 years back. Oh my God, I couldn't live without that person, whatever, that feeling of passion. Right now, the person is still the same. He may or she may even love me, my friend, as much as before. But I myself had lost interest. मैं खुद ही ऊब गया हूँ. Can you imagine? Not only the world outside changes, I myself changed so much that the joy that I'm seeking is transformed into either boredom or sickness or aversion, or just plain it's lost in my life. Nothing lasts. Oh, you may say diamonds last forever. But then how long can I wear them? The diamonds last forever compared to human existence. But then they are just going to somebody's hands after I am gone. It's not going to give me permanent sukh forever. So my contact with the outside world, expecting that, is only inviting suffering. This is what was said in 5th chapter. Ye hi samsparshja bhoga dukhayonaya evate. Dukh is what we are inviting. Anyway, so for the moment when we look at this tree, let's say the banyan tree, Ashwatham, it seems as if it's a permanent tree, because it keeps sprouting aerial roots and digging and then driving those roots into the ground and moving on and on and on. They say that the banyan tree under which Buddha gained enlightenment is still there in Bodh Gaya, because only thing is it moves. It's a marching tree. In the sense, it's the only walking tree in the world. Walking in the sense, when the aerial roots move on, they have sprouted in a new, in the ground in a new place, a few feet away, and then another few feet away, and another few feet away, while the trunk of the older original tree keeps disintegrating and dying. So where the original tree was, you won't find it. That's why it's called the marching or the walking tree. But we may think that this is a kind of permanence, but it is not. Sansar is still not permanent. We get this illusion, this whole comparison poetically has been shown to us to say कि this is an illusion भाई, आप इस illusion, संसारी illusion को समझ लो. Optically, ये optical illusion है, giving us a sense of permanence. Just like when we watch a film, when we see a film, you know the technique of the film, we can see the stillness of the ocean or the sky, or one very slow drop of tear falling from the heroine's face, so slow. But do you know that there are hundreds and millions of small films not small, small fraction of a second, the film is moving so fast that it looks as if the screen is still. That's the technique. Sansar is like that. Everything is moving so fast and so much, and that we get the illusion कि हाँ ये तो permanent है. Just like that movie film. Chandamsi yasya parnani. The leaves are the Ved. How did the leaves get compared to Ved? Now we must remember the Ved we are talking about here is not the Gyan Kand Ved which we are studying. Gyan, because if you see the 4 Vedas, they are all have 80% Karma Kand. Means the yagyas and the vidhi of the yagyas and how to do the yagyas and sacrifices and rituals. Karma Kand, 80%. And 18% of it is Upasana. That is Upasana of the Devta and the Bhakti. Let's call it Bhakti. And what's left then? 80 plus 80, what's left? 2%. 2% of all the Vedas are actually Gyan. Gyan, which we see in Kathopanishad and Bhagavad Gita and some of the scriptures. 2%. Therefore, we say that there are millions and millions and millions of leaves up there, up in the tree. But are the leaves going to satisfy our hunger? No. In that tree, I still look for the fruit. I look for every tree, I look for the fruit. But the leaves are important because they are of decorative value and they give a sense of freshness. But that is all outward. You want सिर्फ दिखावे के लिए leaves हैं, सजावट के लिए leaves हैं. My hunger will be satisfied with the fruit. That's why the 80% is only dikhava in the tree. And the Vedas, which are actually going to take us and satisfy our spiritual hunger, is only 2%. So therefore, here Ved Vyasji has said, see, the tree's got millions of leaves. It's like the Vedas. 80% just leaves, just karma kand and all, which will not take you for moksha, which will not give you moksha. It's just like those leaves. Decorative, beautiful, attractive. Yes, look, man's spiritual hunger will not be satisfied. So that's why this comparison. Yastam Vedasa Vedavita. A very interesting word here used is Vedavit. Vedavit is a person who knows the Vedas. Now it doesn't mean knows Karma Kand and Upasana Kand, millions of lakhs of verses. No. It means the person who can distinguish between Sat and Asat because he knows the truth from the Gyan Kand. And that वास्तविक रूप of this संसार क्या है? वो जिसने जान लिया वो है वेदवित. तो एक विद्वान भी होता है. विद्वान कौन होता है? जिसने शास्त्र पढ़ लिए, शास्त्र के बारे में बोल सकता है, शास्त्र के बारे में एक्सप्लेन कर सकता है या शास्त्र सुना सकता है. विद्वान अलग है. That person may or may not get moksha because the very fact of having that Paramatma close to you, that stillness within you is required, and that Vidvat is the one who can truly go, one who realizes that the true nature of this sansar. The true nature of this sansar is just plain, temporary, ephemeral, आना और जाना of objects and people and situations and मेरे सुख and dukha, everything and my possessions and my naam and my fame and my accumulated whatever fame, accumulated wealth, everything is आनी जा. जो संसार का ये वास्तविक नेचर समझ लेता है, भगवान वेद व्यास जी is calling it, and Bhagwan also, that such a person is a Vedavit. Because we are connected with Paramatma. Why? Because we are that ansh of Paramatma. That without that Paramatma we can't be functioning. So Bhagwan explains the same through the same sansar tree example. ये संसार के वृक्ष को समझ लो, और जो समझ गया वो वेदवित है. Verse number 2. अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसृतास्तस्य शाखः गुणवृद्धा विषयप्रवालाः अधश्च मूलान्यनुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके. मनुष्यलोक में we have two choices. That below are the roots, Of course, this tree has been shown as upside down. That's also okay. That's also spreading. Even if you turn the tree upside down, the branches are spreading below as well as above. Especially in the peepal tree, the roots are spreading below the ground as well as in the aerial, in the branches. And what are they nourished by? How is it that these branches are growing so much? Just like water is nourishing the branches invisibly. I can see the branches, I can see the leaves. Can I see the water nourishing them? No. The water is invisible to me, but I know the branches being nourished by it. In the same way, all the branches and multiplicity of my karma and actions, the branches of my life, so much of karma, they are nourished by my guna. Can I see my guna? No, they are sukshma. I cannot see them. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, but they are driving. Just like the water, they are nourishing the branches, and therefore I find the actions outside. The gunas are very sukshma. The actions outside can be seen. And the sense objects are all the buds, small buds. But the men in the world stretch out towards. In the world, men stretch forth the roots. All the roots stretch out, but all these roots and branches stretching out, originating only and only because of action, karma. The tree, all the roots and branches are spreading out more and more and becoming vast tree only because of water and soil. This water and soil is our karma and guna. This is what is making us spread out like crazy out in this world. Multiplicity. Now, Vishaya stands for all the attractive objects, like the buds, all the attractive objects in the world. Naturally, the leaves sprout quite naturally in the tree. In the same way, these Vishayas or objects sprout very easily and very naturally in our mind. That's why Bhagavan had said in 5th chapter, यही संस्पर्शजा भोग. स्पर्श करने से कोई भी ऑब्जेक्ट हमारे मन को घेर लेता है कि अरे हमने ये देखा, ये सूंघा, ये टेस्ट किया. Have you tasted that wine or that fragrance or that perfume or that place or that beautiful visit to the waterfalls or the hills? This is all because of the senses. So in Vivek Chudamani, it was said that all the creatures have one weakness. So the fish will have a weakness for food. Elephant will have a weakness for the sense of touch. The deer will have a weakness for the sense of smell. You've heard this. And the honeybee will have a weakness for maybe the taste of honey or maybe the attraction to the flower, or whichever. But there is the sense of sight. What about man? The man is the only one who has let all his senses run amok, run wild. Amok means run wild out there. For what? For gratification. मुझे gratification मिलना चाहिए. मेरे sense of smell को, मेरे sense of taste, मेरे sense of sight and touch, उसको gratification मिलना चाहिए. That seems to be the overriding intention of human life. So in Vivek Chudamani, Shankaracharya ji had said, Nara panchabhiranchitah kim. Man who has got all 5 senses running in all 5 directions, in all 10 directions, how can you save him? What about him? Kim. How can you save him? Because the same one, dhyayato vishayan pumsaha, 2nd chapter, आपका ध्यान जहाँ रहेगा जिस विषय पर ना, वो विषय संगस्तेषु उपजायते, आपका अटैचमेंट का विषय बन जाएगा थोड़े दिन में. अटेंशन गया, फिर अटैचमेंट हुआ, एंड ऑल दैट. सो काम क्रोध विजायते, लीडिंग टू ऑल द विकार. 2nd चैप्टर में बताया था. नाउ इन द ट्री ऑफ लाइफ, the same example of course is just being explained in a different way. Adhaschordhvam prasritaah. What does this mean? All branches reach. This is important. I'll close with this one. All branches reach upward. You'll find unless there is a deformity and there is no sunlight, and then the branches, observe some of the trees in the forest or in your garden also. Every tree is struggling to struggle out towards the sky and face up and grow upward. Every branch, every leaf, every small copal, every small sapling is facing upward and wants to grow upward. What about man? Manushya is the only yoni, that is the only womb where he can actually descend down as well as go up. How? Just like the Ashwatha tree. Ashwatha, the people tree, the roots are growing deep in the ground also, and also up in the branches in the air. They're not facing up, but they are outward. So there's Adholokaha and Urdhvalokaha. What does this mean actually? Simply means, very simple. Man has the choice to drive his life, his guna, his vasana and karma to the sattvic, to the highest, and then beyond that to Paramatma. He has the choice. If he knows how, if he cares to find out how, through the scriptures. And the other choices, he also, only in Manusya life by the way. In the plant kingdom, in the animal kingdom, in the Devaloka, you will not find this choice. We are highly privileged. The only species in the universe. I don't know how many creatures are there. Scientists are trying to find out. But we have a choice. We can go downwards. We can go into the tamas of life. We can go into a complete rajasic materialism, or give free vent to, if I feel envious or jealous or angry, I give free vent to my envy and jealousy. I am going into tamasic out of my own choice. I can grow my root down or up. Manushya is the only yoni, only womb. Why not devatas? See, when we become devatas, we meaning those people who have earned so much of punya karma, so much of good karma, that they go into the Devalok, Swarga, let's say. Swarga is not a permanent place according to the Vedas. It's also not a physical place. It's a plane of existence for that soul, a different plane of existence where the soul exists for some time. But then it's the happiest place to be in. The Devtas, we become Devtas as have collected so much punya. But now with so much happiness, what are they doing? They are exhausting all the punya karma by experiencing, by भोग करके इतने सुख का. तो जितना भोग करेंगे उतना वो exhaust हो जाएगा, and when the punya karma is exhausted, go back to human life. Come on, go down. Okay, that's also not permanent. What about animals? Do they have a choice? They are just living by instinct. They are just programmed. They don't have the mind, the capacity, the vivek. We have vivek. Vivek meaning ability to distinguish between sat and asat. If they don't have vivek and they are suffering because of the kind of existence they have to struggle for, food, etc., food and security, they are struggling, and sometimes they are beaten, they die horrible deaths. Animal kingdom is a place of suffering. But what are they doing? All the papa which has been collected, they are exhausting it. So when I exhaust my pap karma, then I am free to go back to Manushya Janma, isn't it? I can become human again. So animals as well as devtas are only exhausting their punya karma, papa karma. But we, apart from exhausting when we are happy and joyous and there is all the goodness of life, that is our punya being exhausted. That is our own collection of punya. And when there is suffering and disaster and cancer and tragedy, that is our pap karma, but that is also exhausted. That much is gone from our bundle. But apart from exhausting punya and karma, we have one more choice. Out of our vivek, we can choose to go upward like the aerial roots or downwards like the ground roots and go towards sattva or go towards tamas. Now the question arises, why would anyone, knowing this truth about life, इतना समझ में अगर आ गया, why would anyone choose to go downwards? कि अपना पतन कौन चाहता है? Who wants one's own spiritual destruction? Look around you and we will know the answer, because the pull of materialism is so strong, or the pull of agyan, not knowing that this is what I am doing to my one single human life, मेरा बर्बाद हो रहा है, agyan, or the pull of material life. इन दोनों की वजह से people are not doing it. And what is this pull? This pull is nothing but, Bhagavan has said in the 3rd chapter itself, that काम एष क्रोध एष रजोगुण समुद्भवः. आपकी कामना, desires are leading to your destruction. काम and क्रोध. ये क्यों नहीं हुआ? I am going to struggle and I am going to fix it. Remember that principle? Trying to fix something, there is some struggle going somewhere in the mind, and the attention goes there. So kama, desire, or krodha, Bhagavan says in 3rd chapter, kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhava, is drawing you outward and flowing your energy outward. This was in reply to Arjun's question. In the 3rd chapter, Arjun had asked, अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः. पापम चरति, पाप की ओर चलता क्यों है पुरुष, जब वो जानता है कि उसका पतन हो जाएगा? ऐसा क्यों होता है? Very innocent question, but easy to answer that yes, we are drawn. This kama and this krodha, the कामना जो है ना, वो किस चीज की है, वो तो अब हम जानते ही हैं. That is पुत्रेषणा, वित्तेषणा and लोकाइषणा. लोकाइषणा तो ऐसी है कि I want fame and name even after I die. कि भाई हमारे when there is a ceremony, there should be more and more people, and they should be saying things about my goodness, and there should be a smarak, there should be some remembrance. So I'm going to publish a book, and that book should become famous, and there should be someone who immortalizes me through a statue. Of course, statues are also going to go back to dust, like Ozymandias. But that is an Ashana. I'm saying वो इच्छा है, रह जाती है कि हमको कोई याद करे. अरे अभी तो याद करे, मरने के बाद भी लगता है कि कोई याद करे तो अच्छा है. How does it matter? It's only the body which is turned to dust. This kama and krodha is screening us off. From what? From the drop. We are going to drop downwards. Urdhvalok, and that is higher up, and adholok, that we are going to drop. We don't know. We are so busy with the material world, and that is a screen, a smoke screen in front of us, and we take one step and we could fall right down the ravine. And that's what we are doing. The whole ravine is waiting for us to swallow us up. Manushya Janma, the only one. How to break out of this trap? We are in a trap. That we will see next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Shri